Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 7, Episode 7. It's called The Totally Excellent Adventures of Mack and the D. So, full spoilers for the episode as always. So,
appropriate titling.
Before we go any further, I want to say that right at the start of this episode, Deke very quickly mentioned that it was 1982, and I got a little disappointed. Because I was like, damn, that's like 4, maybe 5 years away from Chopping Mall coming out. I'm not gonna get my moment that I wanted.
I was the same, and I was like, maybe they can be the inspiration for Chopping Mall.
And then instead of having a reference to the movie Chopping Mall, they just did their own version of Chopping Mall. And what might be the most gloriously made just for me episodes of TV that have ever been created. Because, you know, when Mack referenced Chopping Mall back in season 4, like 2 or 3 times as well, it was kind of like, whoa, a mainstream TV show just referenced Chopping Mall. This is the greatest thing ever.
It was a bit bizarre, yeah.
The fact that in season 7 they went as far to just do their own... See, the moment where the nerdy scientist, you know, computer dude, walked into the room and we saw the sort of the first robot, I just about fell off my chair, cackling in happiness. It was delightful.
This was a great episode. There are, I think, 2 moments in particular that got a proper like belly laugh out of me.
Yeah, there's a few great moments in here. Honestly, the only negative I'm going to give this entire episode is Mack's fake beard looked very fake, and we're just going to leave that there. Everything else was 10 out of 10.
Yeah, this is a top tier episode of this show.
And obviously there's a lot of reference to Chopping Mall. It's not just the fact that they had the robots, they actually had death scenes that are very much like a slasher movie. And because...
with huge blood spurts.
Yeah, and because we're in 2020, we can get away with a lot more in terms of kill scenes on your network TV show than you could back during the days when Chopping Mall actually came out.
Yeah, it's just such a noticeable difference. Like all the deaths in the last few episodes, just to stick to just this season, have been fine, just standard TV deaths. A little bit of blood here, a gunshot, whatever. And then this just gallons of blood everywhere. It's glorious. So
you have that. When they eventually introduced the laser from the eyes, which is actually exactly like Chopping Mall, they've got beams they fire. I was super into that. But obviously there's references to a bunch of stuff throughout the episode. So we find out that they're stuck here for a while. It's basically what we said we wanted to happen last week, where we said it should be all Mack and Deke, barring maybe right at the very end. And of course, technically there's a wraparound, but same difference. The point is that the episode is still just those two, their story.
The wraparound might be one of my only critiques in that. Okay, so it's May interrogating Deke for the report almost.
Yeah, it didn't really have an ending actually. Now you bring that up.
That's my concern. Like I get what they're doing. They're playing into the cliche of the time. They're playing up that aspect of it, and it gives us an excuse to be okay. This is Deke's perspective in the same way that the noir one was. Coulson's, and this explains a lot of the over the top moments with Deke, and that's fine. But I would have just appreciated, all right, if you're doing that, just throw in an extra 40-second scene at the end just to conclude it in any, not a lot, just basic fit stuff.
So there's 2 complaints: Mack's fake beard and the wraparound feeling like it just kind of didn't have an ending. Because the actual ending where Yo-Yo and that show up didn't necessarily feel like it connected to the wraparound. It just kind of felt like a normal ending for this episode. But it turns out that the 18 months is what they spent. They're still in the 80s at the end of the episode. Was it 20, sorry? It's still in the 80s at the end of the episode. Obviously, it's 1983, though, because time has passed. But, Mack's in a bad place. He basically abandons Deke, which I thought was... I know he's going through some stuff. It felt like a bit of a dick move, though, to leave him stranded with no money or credentials in 1982 on his own.
The Deke manages.
Yes. Luckily, yes, he can go and use the lighthouse as basically his apartment, essentially. How Mack's affording rent right now for this year, I'm not entirely sure, but...
Yeah, I question that too. I wondered if maybe they were just carrying cash on them in gym.
Yeah, maybe.
And it was enough. He put a bet on something that he remembered.
What, from his childhood?
Well, just maybe there was a big, I don't know exactly.
Sure.
Maybe there was a big notable sports game or something that he'd be familiar with, and he
And
could put a bet on the outcome.
I'm not really complaining about this because I actually, in the light-hearted, fun nature of this episode, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. It's just that I'm addressing it because some asshole in the comments is going to be like, "Oh well, how did Mack afford it?" I was like, "Who cares?"
Stop and think about it, yes, it's problematic, but it doesn't matter. Just have fun with it.
It's especially since his entire montage, it doesn't seem like he's going out and like working or anything. He's sitting there building cars and getting drunk. Well, I can say cars, model cars.
Yeah, one of my favorite bits is like Deke leaves like a bag of stuff on like New Year's Eve, and then and every time it cuts, it feels like it's cutting ahead quite a bit, and the next time it cuts, Mack's still just in the chair, reaching for another beer. But the bag that Deke left is still just outside the front door, and I'm like, how long's he left that stuff there?
Yeah, groceries specifically. It's food that's the bread's wet and rotten, and he's left them essentials, living essentials.
I just love he's had to go out past it to get more beer, and still just left it there out of principle.
If anything, the most unbelievable thing is that after this almost a year of doing this before he teams up with Deke and that, is that he's still in such good shape and all he's been doing is drinking beer.
Yeah.
He should have a beer belly. He should have lost a lot of his muscle.
To be fair, they try and kind of show a bit of a beer belly in some of the shots. Like they try and play it up a little bit where, the ones where he's like slouching drinking. But by the time you get, when he's up and about in the bar, for example, it's like, well, we can't be arsed hiding this now. Let's just go with it.
Yeah, eventually he runs out of beer, and that's kind of why he accepts to go to this thing that Deke's left an invitation for at a bar.
Yeah, and Deke said it was important.
And it felt like Roadhouse as he was walking into the bar. I don't know if that was specifically intentional, that reference, but it felt like that as he was walking into the bar. I felt like he was going to be the bouncer who breaks up a fight. And then they introduce, he's there, and it turns out that Deke's actually in a band and he's on stage. And
something's,
Well, no, he says the line, he says, my name is Deke Shaw and I wrote this song. And it's only like a split second before the song starts, but in that split second, you're like, oh God, what song has he stolen?
even before he said that, I was like, oh, there is no way this is original music.
Yeah. And of course it's Don't Forget About Me from the Breakfast Club.
Some fun bits in here. There's a lot of lyrics that are just like not the original lyrics. It's mostly close enough, but there's a few bits where it's just like he just obviously couldn't remember and just made them up. He threw Daisy's name in there at one point as well.
Yeah, it obviously ends with the fist in the air at the end of Breakfast Club. I like that Mack didn't really know the name of the song. He just said that's from the Breakfast Club. He just knew that.
That's what most people know from, let's be honest.
So something I didn't think about though until Mack said it is that it actually fits Deke's character, because that was his whole thing before, is that he stole tech that he'd known from the future and started making lots of money off of it. So it kind of fit his character
this
oddly.
Is kind of Deke 101. I wish we'd heard some of the other songs. We hear the drummer mention, I can't remember, it was a Whitesnake song. I can't remember what it was now off the top of my head. But I was like, oh man, I want to hear Deke versions of more of these songs.
Yeah, they mentioned a couple. I mean, that's they spend money on one for the rights, and then you just mention a couple others so that they don't have to pay for it.
But this moment was my first belly laugh of the episode, where it's just Deke. He's gone full glam in the outfit. He's like really going for it.
Headband.
He's not. Yeah, he's not just singing the song. He's gone all out on the look and the style. It just got me off guard.
Yes. Deke hiring a drummer whose day job is selling coke. And then he says, I've never seen him drink any, though. Like, that moment, and it just... Because he essentially, at the end of another couple of lines, he said, a follow-up about, coke again, clearly not understanding,
what it is, yeah.
Because Mack says something like, like drugs like coke. And he's like, what, like the soda? What? He's just confused.
There was a little bit of a weird disconnect here for me, because this is the part where Deke's telling Mack, the band is actually a cover. They're all agents that he's recruited.
The Deke Squad.
The Deke Squad, which is brilliant in its own right. But he talks about how it's genius that they can move around city to city. No one asks any questions, and if there's anything weird going on, people just chalk it up to the drugs. So it's like he's familiar with the culture and and all that, but not familiar with coke itself. How does he even know this much about the 80s anyway? Like, how does he know that the songs from the 80s to use? Actually, I think this is quite an easy thing to explain, because when he came back to present day, and he spent a year out doing his tech company and and immersing himself in the culture of today.
Yeah, because just watching movies for that year.
Probably, but also how much of today's pop culture is 80s reference and reboots and calling back to that time. So it makes sense that he'd be familiar with 80s stuff even through today's pop culture.
I don't know. He just sometimes things slip through where you generally know things, but the specific little things like the he's familiar with drugs, but he doesn't know cocaine, or at least he doesn't know that it's the nickname for it's just coke. Like he doesn't know that.
That's possible, yeah.
So Mack reluctantly goes to the lighthouse, which they've got set up as essentially an 80s disco looking like hangout.
It's so good.
We meet the Chang gang. Was the ones that stuck out to me, and it's funny because it didn't really occur to me because at this point in the episode we don't really know where it's going yet. And there was a great moment later on where I realised why they'd introduced all these new characters. I'm like, oh, it's because so we can kill most of them off because it's a slasher movie.
Yeah, we got the Chang twins. There was the Russian badass woman.
Yes. The other woman, and the drummer. That was all of them, right? The drummer. I feel like there was one more person, but I mean, they were there to be killed. It's fine.
Yeah.
Because during all this, the other stuff that's going on, it felt a bit war gamesy. Again, more references. Was the computer nerd who starts talking to Sybil, the leader of the Chromicons, who has somehow survived in Techland, basically. It is trying to basically convince him to help her, and very iRobot Eugene from the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer, might I add.
But she's not the only one to have survived in tech form.
No, that's true. Coulson's hard drive was recovered. Deke's got him
hooked up to an old TV.
Yeah.
Well, a modern TV by the times, but
yeah. So we got him sort of flickering on the screen and cracking jokes about stuff. I particularly liked later on when he said, "I'm not going to give my ID until I'm included in the circle."
Yeah, I really like when May finally shows up and sees him, and she's just not even surprised, and he's like, "I thought you'd be more, kind of weirded out by this." She's just like, "No."
Yeah,
kind of half of the course.
She expected him to somehow come back, so here we are.
Yeah.
So we still have the Chromicons kind of like as a threat, although it's not the army of Chromicons. It's just this one who's trying to plant the seeds for the new plan, whatever her new plan might be. And so we have Mack in the base. He doesn't want anything to do with this. He says Deke's not a leader. He's a charlatan. Blah 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 blah. Really chews him out. Everyone else, because they try to put on this like exercise for him to prove that they're really training, and it goes badly. They end up shooting each other. The demolition expert uses actual explosives in a paintball simulation exercise. The whole thing goes wildly wrong. And even though Deke builds Mack a Crow Max hammer, or axe, shotgun axe. Yes. Which obviously looks ridiculously, simultaneously cheap yet futuristic, which is kind of perfect for the 80s.
That's kind of the point, right?
Yeah. He doesn't want anything to do with it. And it's not until he's on his way out where the first robot sort of rolls in and he's like, not again. Because, of course, the subplot with the thing is that eventually the computer nerd gets killed as she starts building her own, second and third robots.
She's building the hunters.
Yeah. That have got buzzsaws and firearms and all sorts of ridiculousness.
They say exterminate like Daleks.
This is just utterly delightful in every sense of the word. And the moment where Mack decides to actually join the team and that they have to try and do something about this, and there's still a threat out there, they still have to be a team and do all these things, it does the Predator handshake.
From about 7 different angles.
Yeah, I mean,
this is where I was really feeling Deke playing it up with the we finally did the cool handshake, because and it's all these cutting around all these angles of it.
The first one is the actual shot from the movie, and then it goes into various other permutations, and we get the suit up montage of Mack where he trims his beard and zips everything up. I actually was getting
on a headband.
I was getting Commando vibes from this until the headband, and then it felt more Rambo, but it doesn't really matter. I think in the grand scheme of things,
you just think generic 80s action.
Yeah, so so they're all together, but we get deaths. We get people getting, because the first the computer nerd gets stabbed through the chest, and it's particularly bloody for a TV death.
Yeah, and then you've got the drummer and his girl that he's brought back to the lighthouse, random girl.
Yeah, and again, we have the couple having or going to have sex where they're interrupted by horror movie things.
Let's be honest, slasher movie,
must
staple. Do. Yeah.
And to the point where she actually warns the rest that there's robots killing people because she's already witnessed the drummer die, and she gets yanked from off screen by the robot hand,
and then just blood everywhere.
Yeah. So it's delightful, and we see multiple deaths. Deke gets shot at one point with a laser beam, but he's okay. Kind of further cementing the red shirt stats of the others who seem to die so easily, but Deke and Mack are just like...
Do they all? I don't think they all die, do they?
No, they don't all die. The Russian woman... the other women and the brothers, the Chang gang, they're still alive at the end. And I assume that's because we're still in the 80s next episode, so there's still going to be a facet of the next episode.
Yeah. The Russian woman I couldn't remember because I remember her being really injured. But
she got injured, but she was still kicking at the end.
Yeah.
I believe. So that was good. I loved, I think one point Mack eventually calls him the D.
And this is where I got my other big belly laugh, because Deke calls him Mac Daddy, and it just out of nowhere, and it sounds so ridiculous, and Mac's just like, never do that again.
He just says no. That's just one word, one syllable, just no.
Yeah.
What's funny about this though is I've called him Mac Daddy before, so I'm all for this. I was all for this joke.
Yeah.
We've all been thinking it. We've been ever since that MC Hammer joke like 3 seasons ago.
Yeah.
Right. I've been thinking Mac Daddy in my head since then, and you know what? They finally did it.
I think that's why it was so funny, because we've all had that in our heads, and it's kind of weird the show has never addressed it, and to the point where I assumed it had. But then the way this comes out here, and it's like, oh no, this is clearly catching him off guard, was just particularly funny.
So often the final season of a show often harks back to the start of the show, the first season, even the first episode, the first big plot lines, and this season's been doing that through and through. I think the fact that they actually gave a whole episode to harken back to the show's best season, which was season 4 with the robots, and played it up through one of the biggest sort of joke references in that season, and devoted a whole episode to just doing that for the fun of it, it's basically a love letter to people who really care about the show and care about all the stupid things that they've done over the course of it. This is something that I knew we're going to get anything out of this, but for anyone who's been around, because I was just gleefully laughing. Like the first time we saw the robot sort of rolling around, the ridiculous music was playing, everything about it was just making me grin. And of course, there's the heartwarming stuff where Mack wants to go and visit his younger self and his younger brother, who he sees is living with his uncle, and it turns out Deke's actually been kind of helping them out and like funding them with stuff and all that. And at the end, he does eventually go, and we don't see the meeting. We just sort of see them walking towards the house, and he's finally going to go and give him a model car because he knows he's into that. maybe young Mack's not discovered that yet. Maybe he knows that he hadn't found that until maybe he was 14 when he discovered.
Maybe it was
models.
something that he knew he wanted, but he could never he couldn't afford to buy them or whatever.
And it's a nice little debate here where you have to pretend to be in the band just for the cover story. You can't just tell because I like the subtle thing that one of the other teammates who didn't know the truth of all this thought that Mack was the father of himself.
There's a logic to it. Like she's like, it looks a lot like you, and you Deke cares, and she knows that Deke cares about Mack, so it's like, okay, no, that's a pretty reasonable theory.
Yeah, it makes sense. No, delightful from start to finish. Obviously, the Zephyr shows up at the end. Simmons points out they have 27 days till the next
jump. And then
jump.
they're going to rendezvous, so I would be surprised. We might get an episode next time in the 80s with everyone who's here, and then the one after might be following whatever Simmons does on that 27 days, because she's staying on the Zephyr.
Yeah, or vice versa. They might go to Simmons in that first.
They could go the other way around,
yeah. But yeah, as far as what I wanted from an 80s episode of S.H.I.E.L.D., I wanted shopping mall references, and this delivered shopping mall references way more and bigger and grand. It made it the focus of the whole thing in a way that I could not have expected.
Beyond your wildest dreams of expectations of what you want. You want just give me 1 or 2 good references, and they went 1 or 2 references. We're gonna do a whole episode. Yeah,
and of course they kill the robots. They use dynamite at one point and use other things. It is worth mentioning that the one little robot arm did get the time drive thing that that Sybil wanted to rebuild
it's what
her
she's
ship.
actually using to predict the future as well. I think it's how she's reading it.
Yeah, so she's got what she came for, so that's still for us to play. It does kind of feel like we're going into the second phase of the season, though. We're halfway through, so it makes sense, but
yeah,
it feels like, okay, the actual Chromicons we were dealing with for that first half. So Sybil's the main villain now, and we're still dealing with her, but it feels like the actual chasing them through time and the encounters that we've been having, we're clearly still going through time because we're not back to present day yet. And we're definitely going to be seeing duplicate versions of some of the cast members once we get into overlapping time with, their earlier adult lives. We're definitely doing that. There's no way we're not.
Yeah, almost certainly. It would be weird not to.
To the point where I'm like, we're probably even going to do the Back to the Future Part 2 thing where we're going to have our characters running around behind, like, Season 1 scenes playing out. We're going to see them, like, trying to not be noticed by the younger selves as they're dealing with Season 1 plots.
Probably, yeah.
I'm fully expecting that before the end of the season.
We might do Season 2 plots as well, potentially.
Possibly.
Which would be interesting given that, the Hydra reveal is in Season 1. But I can see them wanting to do some Season 2 plots because obviously Mack's not around till then.
Yeah. That said, though, this was through and through a Mack episode. So, I mean, he might have had his shine from this one and then they can focus on some of the others.
Yeah, it's possible.
That said, though, it could be a fun way of getting Triplet back, or even Bobby and Hunter. Getting them back for whether or not they actually get the actors back, or we just get to see them in Season 1 and 2 scenes.
some stock footage.
Yeah, with our characters running around the background. It could be a nice little callback to them without, actually bringing them back. Although I'd love to see them all be back. Bobby and Hunter especially, and even Ward.
We're definitely getting Ward. Yeah, I think that's one that's beyond a shadow of a doubt. I think they went so far to just have him in multiple roles after his demise, just to keep him in the show consistently. Kind of the same thing they've done with Coulson. If they can find any excuse to have him back in the final season, they absolutely will, and they've got an easy excuse. So
I feel like they have to find a reason for like Sky to beat the shit out of him again. Like I feel like there's going to be something that leads to them having a one-on-one fight where she gets to just like really get to let him have it. And our fully trained Quake self, I feel like that's something I at least want to see. I mean, maybe they won't do that. But
it would be satisfying. I'm not sure if it's necessary or if it'll work in the plot, but there's a desire to see it.
Yeah, I'm going to use a wrestling term here just to describe how this made me feel. I was marking out throughout most of this episode. There's not really. I mean, I guess geeking out is kind of the closest like movie equivalent, but so much in the sense where you feel rewarded for something from a while back. But with movies and TV shows, we don't tend to talk about it in the same context because TV shows are supposed to build upon what they've been setting up. So it's not really a surprise when good TV writing pays off what it's been building for years. The reason why I'm specifically using marking out is because it's this little thing that I never thought they'd revisit, that I never thought they would do to this extent, and then they did it. And it was kind of surprising on top of being very satisfying, hence marking out.
So it's like reading a Grant Morrison comic.
No. No. I mean, the equivalent. I mean, comic books are actually a good comparison for this. It's kind of like them finally giving Stephanie Brown her due and having her in a Batgirl suit again. But we know it's like a surprise and an issue, so that'd be like a marking out moment, right? That's
sure.
Kind of an equivalent. Them going full chopping mall and having Mack, killing robots.
Glorious.
With an 80s soundtrack. That's a mark-out moment. Well, it is for me anyway. Maybe not everyone.
I'm here for it. Clearly.
No, that's I've said this before, but these last two seasons feel like victory laps after the show really kind of like its main conclusion was at the end of season 5, and this was a victory lap. There was nothing. This was just like, look what we can do. We can celebrate the show's existence, and this was just fun for 40 odd minutes, and that's perfectly fine.
Sometimes you can't ask for anything more, can you?
No, I was grinning from ear to ear, pretty much. I mean, as soon as we got to Don't Forget About Me, from that point on, it was basically my grin was, my mouth was sore, my face was sore from smelling too much.
Yeah, all I say is today I watched this and Doom Patrol back to back, and that was like just the most wonderful 2 hours I could have asked for.
Yeah, so yeah, we'll be back next time, obviously, for episode 8. And we'll see what some of the other team members have been doing, and catch up with the gang. But that has been episode 7. So let us know how amazing you thought this was. Comments below. Like, subscribe. Like is really important on YouTube. It lets the YouTube algorithm know that you think we're worth recommending out. You can, of course, get us on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, and you can support us over there for as little as $1 per month and get some bonuses for your trouble, help keep all the content coming. You can also find us on Twitter at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. But otherwise, that is us, so thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?